Welcome to Halloween. Joining me today is Logar the Barbarian, or should I say Ronnie?
It's Ronald, it's sexy Ronald Reagan right now. So,
and joining me as always is Beanie. How are you doing, Beanie? It is fun, isn't it?
It's a little frightening.
You know what? Well, we'll get into a little bit later about how creepy Beanie can be. So, anyways, thanks for everybody for joining us today. It's been a fun month, and I'm very happy and grateful to have Logar join me today. Logar, you've been, or should I say Ronnie?
Ronnie?
So why don't you unmask, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are, Logar? I'll start off by just saying that one of the reasons I asked Logar to be on the show today is like he is one of the best advocates for indie games out there. If you haven't been to his podcast, please do. There's a Patreon to support his good work that he's doing for the indie game industry. And we've already had our first Triple X comment come in.
That doesn't sound good. Oh no.
But if you've not listened to Wobblies and Wizards podcast, please do, and please support Logar. And Logar, just welcome. Thanks for everything you do for the industry.
Oh, thank you very much. It's good to be here. Exciting stuff. We get into zines over at the Wobblies and Wizards podcast. We usually do a zine review a week on Thursdays, and we talk to a lot of creators putting out independent role-playing games throughout the week. And it's a daily podcast, so there's all kinds of interesting things going on over there.
And I'm just a bit of a tourist here during the month of October doing the daily thing, and you have continued to do that. For how long have you been doing the daily shows now?
Since about the summer of 2020. It's been a little over a year, not quite a year and a half yet. So we've been doing it for a bit. So,
well, it's a lot of work, as I've come to realize how much work you put into that, doing it on a daily basis. So,
well, the idea tends to be that we try to do short, 15-ish minute episodes on a daily basis for your ride to work, Wobblies and Wizards. So I think a lot about work, because we work a lot, working class folks. So when you're heading into work, turn on usually it drops at 5 a.m. right now. We've got a drop in Eastern Standard Time, so you can hear while you're heading into work for the day.
Cool. So we're going to get into the live draw. We've got some other kind of fun stuff that we've got planned for today. So thanks for joining us. We're going to be about an hour. And at the end of it all, we're going to give away a $200 store credit from Exalted Funeral, where you can get many of the zines that were previewed throughout the month. So stay tuned, and let's get into just a little bit about Halloween. I mean, we've already touched on it. Making games is incredibly hard, especially for indie designers. There's the monolith of Wizards of the Coast and 5e, and to actually make a profit and become a professional game designer is super hard.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of folks are putting some great stuff out. I don't know how many are able to make ends meet with their games. I don't see a lot of that happening, but the more you can do to pick them up, support them, and kind of check them out, I strongly encourage it. One of the big things that we're into is the zines, largely because we're all about having our gaming content coming from the community itself is something that I tend to be a big fan of. So I'm excited about zines for that reason.
Yeah, and they're easy. Like, I mean, I'm going to hold up one of the cool games that we previewed. Is that in 2 knots? And you can see it's just a saddle stitch folded 11, the letter size 11 by 8.5 thing. And so you can do this. People at home that are thinking about getting into zine design, you can do this. And who knows, maybe it'll end up on our next Halloween.
And with all the technologies available nowadays for things like layout and illustration, you don't have to go pay Adobe as much as they ask per month. You can check out things like Affinity. They've got a nice suite that's relatively well priced, or even some free stuff like Inkscape and GIMP and stuff like that out there for making your stuff without having to pay a huge amount of money to get the software.
And now we're going to talk a little bit about our friend Beanie.
Oh, so where does Beanie come from? He's a little frightening.
Well, I'm an avid Facebook Marketplace person, so like I'm always looking for like weird, like crazy stuff. And I saw this right away, and I went, "What a freaky little doll this is!" And I found him about 2 or 3 years ago, and this has traveled around our house. Like I'll hide him under my daughter's like bed sheets or whatever, so when she goes to bed at night and she sees him, and so it's become. Yeah, it's become like a bit of a joke in our family that we have Beanie. And so when I thought about Halloween, and I was like, I want like a little bit of fun to this. And I wanted to showcase Beanie because I just think, like, who on earth thought that this creepy face would ever be good for kids?
What was the doll's name on the Twilight Zone? Something Tina, wasn't it? Talking Tina, wasn't it?
Talking Tina.
So if be in the mind of that.
If the folks at home will indulge me, here's the original commercial for Beanie, just so that you can kind of see where he came from.
Help, Cecil, help! I'm coming, Beanie! Help, save me! You called? You're funny.
Yes, they both are, and you'll love them. They're Mattel's famous TV stars, Beanie Boy and Cecil the Seasick Sea Serpent. And now they can talk to you. Just pull the magic ring and...
Gee, this is fun.
Beanie and Cecil each say 11 different things. And the fun is, you'll never know what they'll say next.
I love you.
They're so lovable and huggable. They're as warm and cuddly as puppies. You'll find Beanie Boys and Cecils wherever toys are sold. And the ones with magic rings like these talk to you. You can tell it's Mattel.
What the heck?
It's swell.
I want to know whose call it was to make Cecil the Seasick Serpent.
Yeah,
why would you want your little toy to be sick?
Well, that's almost like when you you create a superhero that has a weakness, and it's like a good weakness. And so if he's seasick, not much of a sea serpent.
I don't like to go to sea. I'm a sea serpent, but I get seasick pretty easy, so I try to avoid it. Just kind of stay ashore, let my stomach settle a bit.
And Logar was dressed as Ronnie, and I probably should have been a little bit better positioned, but I'm going as Clark Kent. So that's my costume today, is Clark. But Logar, you shared this picture with me. Tell us a little bit about this old Halloween picture of yours.
Oh, that was Pinocchio. I don't even know what year. It might have been like 1980 or something. It's been a minute. And there's the horrible dog of my nightmares in there, Fifi, my grandmother's little poodle that wouldn't stop trying to bite me and chase me around. I hated that thing growing up. So yeah, it's been a minute. I don't recall it. It's been probably 40 some years since that picture. So
and who's the dog? Who is the dog in the picture?
That was Fifi. That was Fifi. Fifi and I have bad memories of Fifi. They're not positive memories. That dog did not like me. But
you can see in my picture, I had two older sisters that liked to dress me up, and so I don't even know if this was a Halloween picture, but we had a costume trunk in our household, and every now and again we'd dip into it. And I was quite a bit younger than my two sisters, so they would continuously dress me up, and I think that's one of the pictures that I was wearing a wig, and I don't know what kind of coat that was, mid-century modern coat.
You got the whole outfit going on. What year do you think that was?
Oh, geez. That must have been like 78, probably around that time, 78. Yes. Yeah, so Star Wars time.
The memories. We did a lot of homemade costumes growing up. I did a lot of hobos where I'd run.
Oh yeah, that was the fallback.
Oh, we got prizes. Prizes to draw.
Let's do our first set of prize draws.
Okay, let's do it.
So the first one up for grabs is Riverbend and Old School Stylish. So it's a fun zine if you want to like simulate fishing and Old School Stylish, which allows you to add on to OSE if you wanted a little bit more of customization for your characters. Both really good books. They're zines. And let's announce our first winner of the day.
And
it is
Eric Foster. You've just received yourself an Old School Stylish and Riverbend fishing adventures.
Cool. And so we did the draw earlier today. So this isn't actually live, but it's all on the up and up. We went through and did the random generator and everything. So Eric, we will be contacting you at the email that you provided, and I'll get your mailing address with all the winners, and I'll send that along as soon as possible. So our next games,
Slasher, Paranormal, and Bucket Bash.
These are from Disaster Tourism. We featured Bucket Bash and Slasher on Halloween, and all really fun games. And so Disaster Tourism, really good designer, and they've got a new one out called Haunted House. And I think, Logar, you just had Disaster Tourism on?
I think it was Friday's episode. If you go back through the podcast, there's only been a couple days. Disaster Tourism was on there. We talked a bit about This House is Haunted. And that's available in hardback too. At least it might be for a limited time if you can get your hands on it while it's still out there. So go back and check that out. And
cool.
Who's winning this Disaster Tourism lot here? Zachary Wolf. Congratulations, Zachary. You are the winner of the Disaster Tourism lot.
Cool. Okay, we're going to we did a couple draws. Now we're going to jump into just a little bit of fun. Logar, what is your favorite horror movie?
Oh, it's The Fly. It's The Fly, hands down. I had 1958, The Fly with Vincent Price. Now, see, the picture you've chosen is the incorrect picture to choose, and here's why. There was an image to The Fly. Horror movie monsters have a certain image a lot of times, like Freddy's got his look, Michael's got his look, Pinhead, so on and so forth. The Fly never really had a look, but in the 1958 The Fly had a look that we just lost sight of, that we should have leaned into. Because if you watch the movie, most of it, he's got a shroud over his head and the fly hand in his lab pocket, and he's kind of hunched around, moving, really cool looking. That should be the iconic image of The Fly. Because by the time you get to The Fly, or like the Return of the Fly, and then the remakes, they've changed the way The Fly looks every time so much it's not memorable or iconic. But that original image with the shroud over the head, I swear by, that's what they should have leaned into.
And did you like the Jeff Goldblum version?
I like it. I am definitely a bigger fan of the original Vincent Price film. For some reason, and it's probably those rose-colored glasses growing up with it. But I like most Fly movies. The original three, The Fly, Return of the Fly, The Curse of the Fly, and then you got the 80s Cronenberg Fly and Fly 2. I'm a Fly fan.
And I'll throw this out to the audience in the chat. What's your favorite movies of all time for horrors? Before I get to my little pick, which is The Thing. The Thing, which is not necessarily a strict horror movie. It's not like a slasher or a typical horror movie, but I mean, it's got all the elements of a really awesome horror movie. It was mixed with sci-fi, which is like totally up my alley. Like that is, for me, it was just on the other day, and my wife said to me, haven't you watched this enough? Like, you must have seen it like at least twice this last month. And I said, I've probably seen it like 8 times this last month. I just, every time it's on, I watch it. I just love The Thing.
That's great. Yeah, and it's definitely closer to the Jeff Goldblum era Cronenberg Fly stuff. It's got that body horror thing going on, the grotesque nightmare baby that it is.
I think Cronenberg's got a new movie out too that has a lot of cool new like body horror kind of stuff, if that's what you're into. But yeah, that one scene when he's out in the snow and he like looks to the camera with his like crab claw and he kind of looks back to the camera. That's like awesome.
Excellent. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's get into some more prize draws. So next up is Pacts and Blades by Lucas Rolim.
Oh,
You
this
can see them
Pacts
here.
and Blades. Pacts and Blades itself is its own kind of rules light standalone role playing game that's kind of leans into Michael Moorcockian fantasy. It says to be, and it's a neat little one. We did do a Zine Thursday on it at some point in time in the last couple months, but yeah, it's a cool game to get.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it all comes down to that one little table that's inside of it for like, and a clever little mechanism to go up and down at the table. And so, yeah, it's a fun spin that Lucas put on it. And the Salamander household is like its first adventure set in there. So super cool. And I think somebody said, let's do a drum roll. I wish we had a drum roll. I should have had that sound effect, but next year.
If I pound on the desk, it'll probably just make the microphone shake. Matt Williams. Matt Williams, you have just won Pacts and Blades and Salamander Household.
And once again, Matt, I will be reaching out to you at the email you provided, and we will get this sent off to you as soon as possible. The next group, where are they?
Okay, so these are some interesting. Some of these are, and I'm familiar with Zed and Two Knots. That was Josh Demansky, correct? Was involved with that. Who did?
Yeah.
Ooh, Matt Williams. Woot.
Yep. So
yeah,
Matt, happy guy. So
a couple of these I'm not familiar with. I haven't checked them out yet.
I deemed this the Curiosity Bundle because, I mean, they're just kind of unique games. And this one, BDSM, which is Below Dwelling Sewer Mutants. And that's its own standalone game. And then we've got Cocaine and Alligators, and Florida Man. And that is, I'm trying to get this. It's a Troika adventure. And all the backgrounds are like super crazy, like Florida type people.
Oh, no.
And also Many Tales. This was donated by Jacob John White, and it's almost like Mouse Ritter. Mouse Ritter, and he writes like a serialized cosmic kind of Mouse Ritter adventure, and I think they're thinking about doing a game with it. So he donated that for this.
I need to check that out. Is that available? Do you know if that's available on?
That's available. Yeah, we definitely check that out. I'll try to put links into all these. But I'll do a drum roll for you.
Winner, Jacob Densford. Jacob, you have just won yourself the assorted lot, Cocaine and Alligators with the Florida Man, BDSM, a Mini Tail, and Zed and Two Knots.
Cool. And now we move on to Forbidden Psalm. These look so cool. Like the art on them is so evocative. So you've got
I gotta review this one because I've had it on my shelf for forever and I haven't pulled it out to review it yet.
So you got the main game book, which is like basically a miniature MÖRK Borg and a couple adventure settings.
And to be clear, when you say miniature MÖRK Borg, it's more like adding like a mini game element. So you like.
And I know you've talked before that you don't want to get into miniatures, and nor do I, because if you saw my bookshelf of all the games that probably I need to get to the table, that I don't, and it's embarrassing, and I can't imagine adding miniatures into the mix. But yeah,
I can imagine. I would not do well. It would hurt my pocketbook. I have a few.
Okay, let's get into the winner. Is the
winner, Jordan Bracken. You have just won. It's called. Wait a minute.
Forbidden Psalm.
Forbidden Psalm. I was called
Psalm,
Forbidden Psalm, and the Forbidden Psalm, a Dead Festival, the Dungeon of Death. So congratulations, cool. Jordan Bracken.
Okay, we're going to take another quick little break and dive into Logar. Tell us about your best scary game experience, because I think, especially because of Halloween, there's been a lot of like, what game should you play and to create the mood. What's been your best game that you ever played?
I don't know about the best game. One of the things that I had a lot of fun with, though, and I thought was neat, was it was a really small game group. We played some Call of Cthulhu, and we decided to do it by candlelight, and we made sure we got like tea going and stuff like that. So we had little teacups and whatnot, and we had some 1920s music playing in the other room for us to hear, and made sure we set the atmosphere and the mood for the game just right. And that was a lot of fun, immersing ourselves into the game that way. And it was a little hard to look at a character sheet every now and then from candlelight. Not gonna lie. I had to throw a light on here and there, throw on a flashlight.
Yeah.
But that was
one
fun.
One of the things that I wanted to try is there's that game, and it's escaping me right now, that is the candles, the 10 candles, and I think as the candles go out, you like lose the hit points, or like the equivalent of abstract of hit points. Have you played that?
I have not, but we've been talking about playing it in my buddy's basement for a while now, because my buddy's got the perfect basement for it. It's a little more stone wall-y type, and I think we'd have a lot of fun playing it down there. I think we were wanting to play it this summer. We might try to get to it this fall, but it's been brought up and it's called 10 Candles, right? That's the actual title.
I think so. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. I have not played it yet, but I would like to.
Yeah. And so for my best scary experience, and this was like late 80s, probably early 90s, was Vampire Kingdoms. I had an adventure set in Vampire Kingdoms for Rifts, and I know Palladium gets a lot of bad press, about just like, hard to play and all that kind of stuff, but their settings were so goddamn good. And I know, Logar, you've played, I think, the Savage Worlds Rifts. How have you liked that?
No, I've never played Savage Worlds Rifts.
Oh, really?
I've only played regular classic Rifts, unfortunately. Well, I don't know. Unfortunately, we actually just did a Rifts campaign that wrapped up earlier this year, and we went through some of that Vampire Kingdom stuff because we stuck with those early books, Vampire Kingdoms, Atlantis, and the source book. But yeah, I've only ever played the regular, just classic Rifts. I've never ran Savage Worlds, so I like Palladium.
Yeah, I like those were formative games for me growing up. The Heroes and the Beyond Supernatural and Rifts and that kind of things.
That Beyond Supernatural is a perfect one for the horror games. And that and Nightbane, which came out later on in the 90s as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump back into a couple more giveaways.
Ooh,
this one is Qvke Borg, which is basically Mörk Borg and Quake smashed together. And the winner is
James Andrew Lyle. You now are a proud owner of Qvke Borg and Doorway to Blasphemy. And if you want to learn a little more about it, you can scroll back. I think it was over the summer we got to speak to the author of Qvke Borg. It was and get a little insight on the creation of that zine there.
Okay. Next up, we've got two actual giveaways here, and I don't know where I put them.
Longwinter.
Longwinter by Luka Rejec, and Runecairn by Odin's Beard. Both of them are standalone, cool games. Pretty thick. They're not zines, so they're actually games themselves. And Luka, I've had him as a guest on the podcast, and just so amazing. He's one of those guys that I'm jealous of. He's like a triple threat where he does the writing, he does the art, he does the layout, so good. And then Runecairn by Odin's Beard. And I want to say, and I haven't actually played it at the table. Is this a Cairn? Do you know?
I believe it is, and I think that there might be, if I'm recalling correctly, there might be a sort of that might be a comp of a few earlier zines, but I might be wrong on that because I know there was a couple Runecairn zines that initially came out. That I think they may have put a few into the hardback, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, and I think it's like Cairn for the historic Viking Cairn, essentially. Yes. And I mean, there's so many games that have leaned into the Cairn SRD, the rule set, and once again, if you're starting out thinking about getting into designing role-playing games, there's a lot of SRDs out there that you can kind of take as scaffolding to build your game upon, and Cairn is just one of them.
Yeah, and Cairn is really good for one of those that's if you're looking for something that's rules light, you don't need a lot of cumbersome rules, and you want to get new players involved and stuff like that. Great game for all that. Cairn is perfect for that kind of thing. or Runecairn, at that matter.
Okay, let's see who's going to win Longwinter.
And the winner is Aaron Morgan. Congratulations, Aaron Morgan. You have won Longwinter.
And the next one up, Runecairn.
Runecairn. The winner is. I'm really bad with is it Asbjorn?
That sounds good.
Asbjorn Lagsmand? Lagsmand? Asborn Lagsmand? Agsmorn Lags. Forgive me if I butchered your name. I feel horrible. I'm really bad.
I as anybody that watched any of the videos, especially with the Troika videos, some of the flowery language in it, I just tripped over so badly.
So Asbjorn Lagsmand, I believe.
There we go. So we will be reaching out to both of you to get your addresses and send them your way.
Okay.
And let's just take another. We got only a couple like really big draws: the MÖRK BORG and the $200 from Exalted Funeral coming up. But Logar, let me ask you, we've talked about it a little bit. What's the importance of zines for indie designers? As far as like you feature a lot of indie designers that are just starting out, getting their foot in the industry. Just can you tell us your view on zines?
Zines in general, I'm a big fan of. I think before I ever got into game zines, I was getting into more socially charged and political zines. And it was a way for people to be able to get their stuff out there. Like they may not have had a big publisher behind them that could distribute all their things, but you could put together a zine with what it is you had written or created, either comic wise and whatnot, and be able to get it out there in the world for a relatively low cost. I mean, starting off, it was just a lot of folks was Xeroxing, a regular Xerox paper. Zines have grown to be very much a artistic endeavor in this day and age with the game zines. People have really leaned into fancier printing, more color prints, and amazing art. One of the things I was saying when I first started trying to do a role-playing game blog and a role-playing game podcast is like, I want to see something that is more like an open community of gaming. Open gaming is what I talked about. And zines kind of make that happen. We're not just relying on the big companies to put out the content anymore, but the people who are playing these games are the ones who are contributing to the general what's going on out there. So many people putting stuff out for like Old School Essentials and other types of games and putting out their own original games. There's so much creativity in the world. It's like the how many Einsteins died in the mines type thing. Yeah. And it's kind of giving people that chance to show that they have these wonderful things in them. And I think that overall we'd be better if people would be able to pursue and express what it is they have creativity wise to the world. And that's one thing I like about zines is it lowers that bar. You don't need the big publisher to put it out and stuff like that. And it gives more people access to be able to show what they are able to do. And there are some really creative, wonderful people out there that have some good ideas. And let's be honest, one thing I've learned going through a lot of zine games is that most games probably don't need 2, 3, 4, 600 pages for a game. Sometimes 30 pages is enough for all you need. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Like, doing like a quick zine, whether it's Zine Quest, which was in August, and I know the other one's coming up in February. We'll talk about that shortly. And then there's Zine Month, and I don't think they've landed on what that group wants to do as far as like promoting their month-long zine. But there's a lot of communities out there, and there's a lot of people in those communities and Discord servers that are willing to help out. A lot of resources to get you started in game design. So check those out. There's like, and that's partly why I wanted to do Halloween is, help build that community, help highlight some of these like really creative designers that aren't getting the light that they deserve with the monolith of 5e and some of the other big players. It's nice to kind of shine a light on some of these other designers.
And also, I'd like to point out that if you are a big 5th edition player, There's lots of people putting out little zines and other supplements for independently for that game as well. So you don't have to altogether abandon the game you're into. A lot of the content out there be worked fine for what you do play.
Cool. And you can just see some of the comments, you know, from YouTube, people totally agreeing. So if you're watching this and you're going like, I want to get into game design, you can just see some of the good advice that is going on here. So,
oh, nice. Just create an 8-page zine to give away to DMs.
Totally. So let's go through, let's do a quick recap of like all the games that we featured or zines that we featured on Halloween. Bucket Bash, which we already talked about, disaster tourism, and as part of the giveaway. They've produced a lot of cool little fun games, and definitely worth checking out in Haunted Houses being their most recent one.
The Desiccated Temple of Losha.
It is like, I love the isometric the map in this, and I also love the idea behind it with it being in the desert, and you come across this temple of fish people, and you kind of go, why is the desert dry? And it's just like a kind of mind trippy thing. And so Andrew Duvall is producing that, and I really enjoy that one.
I strongly suggest it. This is one I have run, and it's a quick, easy thing. Well, I'll tell you the situation I ran it in. We picked up Knave because we had a lot of people missing from group. We rolled up Knave characters, took no time, and we ran through this. It's easy enough to read through and prep before a game when you have a last-minute change like that you can get through it. And my players really loved it and had a lot of fun. It's a good adventure. I definitely give it 2 thumbs up.
And Karen, which we already kind of talked about, it's a basis for like a lot of other games, including another one that we featured on here, which was Liminal Horror.
Mm-hmm. Liminal Horror is a pretty good game. Karen was good, and I definitely suggest that as well. Mostly, hey, I'm pretty sure the PDF floats around for free, and I think you can get print copies for as low as like $3 on places like Amazon. You can get nicer prints from LFOSR and other places that are worth picking up, but it's robust enough to run a campaign off of. You're looking to get into role playing on a budget. You don't want to spend $150 for the core books. Definitely look at Karen.
And then you see in the comments, Andy, who is the author of Desiccated. So well done, Andy.
Excellent.
And then we go on to, we talked about Karen. What's so rotten about zombies defending an ancient temple? I like this because it kind of put the backward spin on like you being the zombies and trying to defend against the invaders. So all these hobo killers that are wandering into your dungeon, and you can defend it.
I've yet to check that one out. I don't have a copy of it, to be honest. I need to check it out. It looks cool.
And Hexalege, I don't know if I ever pronounced this right. I called it Hexalege, but
this is from LFOSR, isn't it? Am I correct?
Yeah, Leo from LFOSR does the printing for this one, and yeah, it's really nice inside. Like all the maps are like really well done, the cartography, and I would say that's probably its strength is just like its beautiful cartography. And I know that Fernando Salvatierra does some other cartography as like commission, so you should reach out to him if you want some cool maps like that.
And definitely Google LFOSR and go check out what they got. They have some of the nicest prints out there. He does a great job at putting those together. They're works of art.
And is that in 2 knots? I think we saw Josh in the comments, and Riley Coyote, Josh Domansky, and Riley Coyote. And Josh has more recently done the Bureau, which is liminal horror adventure or setting, and that's also very cool. And so this one, it was also part of our Zine Curiosity Zine bundle, where the villagers get kidnapped by aliens for OSE. So interesting setting.
And this one is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is more of a funnel for OSE, correct? Like more of a zero level funnel?
Well, I'll let Josh comment, but I think you had the option of you could like do it as a funnel, or you could do it as a level 1 type of thing.
Present here.
And then we've got Knave, which is Ben Milton from Questing Beast. He needs no introduction as far as what he's done for the OSR community. And as mentioned in the review, he's working on the second edition, and it looks to be just as amazing as the first, and a little bit more elaborate, but that's to be expected with the second edition.
I will say we've ran Knave a few times, and my players love it.
And yeah, and you can see Matt saying, good to see some designers on here to share their background. And Craftwork, this is by Will Purvis, who did Craftwork. And then the next one, Faycraft, which I thought was cool. It's like, and I mentioned this in the review, that I forget when Advanced Dungeons and Dragons started in second edition. They started having skills, and some of that was maybe an Unearthed Arcana. I can't quite remember. But this is like that. You bolt it onto your OSR setting, and you can develop skills, and then later on kind of magic to add into a system that doesn't have that.
I think second edition may have actually included an option for skills in the core book to start with. Yeah, Faycraft.
And then we've got Testudinia, and this one really got me tongue-tied when I was doing the review. This was the first one that I was like, I am tripping over every other word in it, but nice, fun, flowery language and for the Troika, and this giant turtle with a city on its back. Very, very cool.
Yeah, Troika has very, if you're not familiar with Troika, it's worth checking out. It's very out of left field type of stuff. It's not your normal dungeon crawly D&D stuff, if you're not familiar with it. Elegy of the Sapphire Adept. What is this? Is this an individual game, or is this a supplement for something?
You know, my mind's escaping me, but I'm pretty sure it's a mothership adventure.
I like Mothership. This is a good little game.
I went through so many zines. I was just like, I'm like starting to like have PTSD about it. And this was another fun one that does not have any text in it. So if you have not seen the review on this, like there's absolutely no text. It's all an alien weird language, and you have to decipher what this game is.
Interesting. I'm curious to check that out. I don't have a copy of that. And my question is, what is the title of the game of the zine, so I can look it up?
Well, it's the game. I think it's the Unknown Game. Like it's actually, its title is the Unknown Game.
The Unknown Game. Interesting. Yeah. Space Saga.
Here's another sci-fi game, Space Saga: Beyond Man. That was a nice fun one.
Is that a standalone, or was that a?
That is a standalone, I believe. Yeah.
Space Saga.
And then we got Dead in the Water, which was a mothership adventure. And I just recently read the interview with Sean from Mothership, and he talked about Reese Carter being one of his go-tos for playtesting. So if you know, so he obviously knows what he's doing with the game.
Excellent. Reese Carter.
Slasher, another edition from Disaster Tourism. Qvke Borg, which we mentioned, it's part of the giveaway.
And there's Qvke Borg.
And that's always like right off the bat, I was like, "Am I saying this right?" I didn't know. I just started calling it Qvke Borg. And Darkness Moves by Perplexing Ruins.
Perplexing Ruins. That's a good one there.
I think you had mentioned you're like a big fan of Perplexing Ruins and his art style, and he does a lot of other art for different games.
Yeah, he does. Perplexing Ruins does some great stuff. We got a chance to talk to him at some point in time. It's been a minute. I think it may have been during Zine month or around there, but I might be wrong.
And then we've got Doorway to Blasphemy, another Qvke Borg. It's an adventure for Qvke Borg. Liminal Horror, which we've talked about. This is like gaining popularity for people to build their own adventures within this setting.
I strongly suggest grabbing you a copy of Liminal Horror. It's relatively affordable if you get a print copy on Exalted Funeral. I'm tempted to say it might be the next Mothership or something along those lines. There's a lot of community support. A lot of people are getting into it. It's definitely a good rules light horror game for run just about any horror game you want to run. The
Kalunga Plateau. And Logar, I think I saw you promoting. You're going to actually cover it this week.
Well, yeah, well, that we just on Sunday we recorded a Zine Thursday episode covering Kalunga Plateau. So a few of our thoughts on there. There's some cool stuff. There's a few things I may not have gotten around to mentioning that I really like about this. The adventure itself in there is it's a pretty cool one.
And I kind of mentioned that even since the Isle of Dread, I never liked dinosaurs in my fantasy games, but I've softened on that over the years. I just, for whatever reason, I was like, if you're gonna have a dinosaur, you might as well have a dragon.
I get into anything absurd.
We've got Nightcrawlers, which this one actually surprised me. I didn't know much about it going into it, and it's a fun standalone game. And it really evoked a lot of that old school 80s design aesthetic to me. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like fantastically put together, art and layout and everything.
And what's the premise of this game essentially?
You're punk rock monsters in a city. Yeah.
Excellent.
So it's just kind of fun that you're these supernatural monsters living in the city, but you're kind of punk rock teens.
I have to check that one out. Splatterpunk role-playing game.
And then we've got the Frozen Temple of Glacier Peak.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's going back to more like a fantasy setting, and like glaciers play into it, and like the ice melting. So it was kind of a fun little adventure setting. Elder Oak, which is reminds me of what's that movie Avatar with the big giant tree in it, and like being the oak that gives life, kind of.
I'm not 100% sure I've seen that. It's a film.
No, Avatar is the film, and little known fact.
The James Cameron movie.
Yeah, the James Cameron film. I've never been able to
see that. I've
never
seen it.
You're one of the rarities like me. I have tried to watch that movie. I don't know how many times. I cannot get past the halfway point, and I shut it off. I just do not like that movie. I don't know why.
I've never seen it. I've never even tried to watch it. I've never seen it. I'm aware of it, but that's it.
Yeah, and so I probably won't see the new ones either. I'm just guessing. And then Rogueland on day 24.
I will say this. Rogueland is a really solid game. It's a standalone game like Cairn or Knave. If you're into 5th edition, it may be one of the ones you want to look at, because some of the conventions will lean a little bit more familiar type of mechanics for a 5th edition player, but it's still got that that rules light way of approach to it. Really solid game. I can't tell you how great Rogueland is.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of people talk about their love of it. And then Nightland, which Vasily is like on a bit of a roll with DNGN recently, and some of his other products. Really awesome. But this one's got that kind of Troika vibe, like Perpetual Twilight. So that was a fun game.
Yeah, Vasily, the Singing Flame, you can find them at Singing Flame, and really, really good stuff. Some great content he's putting out. We talked to him. Oh, it's been probably over a year now since we spoke with him. We need to try to reach out and see if I can get him back on again.
Codex R. This was perhaps the most unique out of all of them. That like it's a Troika world and all the different factions within it, and all the basically one page was one person within the faction, and as you read through the backgrounds, you could see how they all fit together. And it was just like a very interesting read, even though I was like tongue twisted the entire time on that one.
Some of those will do those to you, especially the Troika stuff.
Derf, which is another minimalist system. It leans into like Knave and Maze Rats and other ones, Cairn and Into the Odd, which the granddaddy of all of these games is Into the Odd. Like I know we've got Cairn, but its parent is Into the Odd. So Chris McDowell, who I've interviewed on the show before, really that has gone through the entire ecosystem and of games and really made a big influence. Pacts and Blades, which we talked about briefly with Lucas Rolame, a Morkockian standalone game for OSR style. And then we did this MÖRK BORG, Chris Bissett's A Treasure of the Troll King. And boy, I had a hard time reading that. It's just like MÖRK BORG with all the different fonts and everything and different bright colors, but really, really exciting layout. Do you play MÖRK BORG?
I've got a lot of the MÖRK BORG stuff, and I've been meaning to run it, but we haven't gotten around to it. But I've picked up a lot of MÖRK BORG stuff. I'm kind of tapering off of how much MÖRK BORG stuff I'm buying because we haven't gotten it to the table yet. Hopefully sooner than later we'll get a few games in, but we play so many games, it's hard to get stuff to the table sometimes.
And then the Forced Primordia, that is a Troika adventure, and really nice art and kind of a cool concept of it's like basically your hex crawl in a forest, and it's got like the hex crawl and then leads into a dungeon crawl. So it's kind of got it all for Troika. And then finally today we released Valley of Forbidden Churches, which is another MÖRK BORG adventure, and also part of one of our final giveaways is the MÖRK BORG zine pack, and that was like once again perfect for MÖRK BORG, just very evocative, and that is it for a recap of Halloween. So I just want to say to all the designers that we featured, like I wish I could do more. There's like so many good games out there, and I think a lot of them deserve to be showcased a little bit more, and I look forward to doing more of these types of things in the future.
Yeah. And I will say, if you are out there looking and you're putting out stuff, we're always interested in hearing from folks and talking to folks about the stuff they're creating. One of the large things we try to focus on is independent creators who may not have a big marketing budget, who are making great things that they want others to see out there. So we try to kind of push that kind of thing over at the Wobblies and Wizards podcast. So feel free to reach out to us on any social media, wobbliesandwizards@gmail.com. You can email us there, just spelled out AND.
Yeah, and send Logar, reach out to him, send it through Twitter, or subscribe to Patreon. That's even better, and reach out to him there, and say, hey, I've got this game upcoming, whether it's for Zine Quest or just you want to get out there. And Logar does a great job of profiling some of these starting designers and their games. So make sure you follow Logar on Twitter and Patreon.
Oh, and I will say, if you do want to reach out to us for Zine Quest and you're planning on doing something for Zine Quest, please do it ahead of time, because the time we get to that month, we're going to be pretty booked solid, and it might be hard to get people in. So the earlier you can reach out, if you can get a hold of us a month before you think you might want to record or be on, please do, because doing a daily podcast, we record pretty far ahead. So I will put that out there. Earlier is better than later.
And I'll say, if here's my pitch. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. If I'm even on TikTok, I'm going to put some of these clips from some of my interviews, as well as from Halloween on TikTok, so you can check them out there. So lots of different places that you can connect with both of us.
Well, I just got on TikTok this weekend.
Yeah, I know, we're friends on TikTok, so get on there and check out Wobblies and Wizards and Dieku Games on TikTok, and follow us and say hello, and just it's a nice community on there. And hashtag Beggar Talk seems to be the place to get the most traction. Andy Duvall actually put me onto that from Desiccated Temple of Luka. He said that seems to be what the young kids that are trying to get people away from 5e into some of these indie spaces is hashtag Beggar Talk. The idea behind it was
Beggar Talk.
The idea behind it was, I'm begging you to play another game besides 5e. So it's called Beggar Talk.
That makes sense. Yeah, I will keep that in mind. Hashtag Beggar Talk.
And so, and Logar, you talked about what's next for you for Wobblies and Wizards. Are you just going to keep doing the daily broadcast? Are you able to maintain that?
Hopefully, it helps. Hey, I'll be 100%. It comes down to if I'm able to take that time and focus on it or not. So, having keeping the listens up, Patreons, people backing us on there, those things help because that's, more time I can spend on just financially makes it viable for me to spend that time because it does take a lot of time. So 100%, it kind of comes down to something like that. Right now I'm plowing through. I don't have any plans to stop, but we're doing it. Patreon.com/Wobblies and Wizards. You can back us there. You can find us just about anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search Wobblies and Wizards. Or you can just Google Wobblies and Wizards. We're on iTunes. Is probably the place that most people listen to us. Our wobbliesandwizards.com is our blog. We may be putting some more stuff up on the blog here soon. We'll see. We haven't had as much going out lately. I've been spending a lot of time on the podcast, and we got a few other things in the work, but I don't want to get too out there and into the weeds of that right now until we get there and I'm ready to talk about it more. So,
and then for myself, I'm not too sure. I want to kind of keep helping some the designers. I tend to kind of interview some of the really seasoned designers that have been in the industry for a long time, with my goal of that of them sharing some of their tips and tricks for some of the up and coming designers that they can kind of learn from them, and I learn from them. Every designer that I have on the show has just dropped so much information that if you ever want to get a good background into game design, if you watch every one of these designers talk about their games, they have so much insight as to how to make a game, and I've learned so much. And also even I've learned from some of these indie zines and of what you can do in such a small space. So everything's been great for Housing, and I'm trying to figure out a way that I can also kind of cover some of the indie space a little bit more, just like Housing on a more regular basis. So I'm thinking through that for myself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we are on to the final prize draws.
Uh-oh, here it comes. Here's the big one.
Here it comes.
Time for some more. So the pronunciation of MÖRK Borg, do you know?
Well, everybody calls it MÖRK Borg, so that's what I call it. But I think when you listen to the folks that make it, they call it MÖRK Borg.
Yep, it's Borg. It's not the MÖRK part. It's the Borg. It's getting tripped up. Borg.
So these are awesome zines, so colorful, so interesting. Yeah. They've got fold outs. I'll try not to rip it because whoever wins this is not going to be happy with me, but just cool stuff.
No, I got the Heretic one. I think that might be the only one of the lot that I actually physically own. Actually, I think I have a PDF of it.
So super cool. Let's see who is going to win the MÖRK Borg zine pack.
And the winner is Daniel Jacobson. Congratulations, Daniel. You have won the MÖRK Borg zine pack. Heretic, the Valley of Forbidden Churches, Book of Misery, and Treasury of the Troll King.
Very cool. And then now we move into the big prize.
200 store credit at Exalted Funeral. Oh.
And so a lot of these games you can find at Exalted Funeral. And if you visit their website, so some of the ones that we featured are on there, if you look at the description of the videos of each game, often I'll put links to where you can buy them. Exalted Funeral is one, LF OSR was another one that you can buy a lot of these games. So $200 store credit for the big finale. And
the winner is Sage Hamilton. Congratulations, Sage Hamilton. You have just won a $200 store credit at Exalted Funeral.
Cool. Well, I hope that doesn't disappoint others that didn't win, but I appreciate everybody that entered, and for everybody that supports this channel, whether you're sharing it, I appreciate that. Some of the comments I get privately are people going, how come nobody subscribes to your channel? I'd love it. And I appreciate all those super kind words. So if, just take a moment, I'd appreciate you just sharing it out there with your crowd and just letting them know that we do exist. And same with Wobblies and Wizards. Make sure that you're sharing out people like us, because ultimately we want to support the zine industry and the zine designers. And the best way that you can have us continue that is to support our channels and podcasts. So that's my kind of pitch for that. So I just want to say, you know, thank you to everybody that's followed along throughout the last 31 days. It's been a long but very fun 31 days. And I just want to say to everybody, and Logar, thank you for joining me, and for Beanie for being a co-pilot throughout the whole time.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. It's been great. I've enjoyed this.
And for everybody watching at home and all the aspiring designers, just keep it up. It's not easy, and it's easy to get disillusioned, but I think if you keep at it, you know, nothing comes overnight. So it's a good community and good to be part of it. So, you know, thanks for everybody for being part of it. Okay, bye, Logar. Bye, everybody. And we'll just play you out. We'll play you out at the end of the Overlook Hotel.